The massive warship Darkstorm moved through space like a giant metal beast. Its black hull was covered with scars and dents from countless battles. The ship was 3 miles long and carried enough weapons to destroy entire planets. This was the pride of the Krethek Empire, the most feared military force in the galaxy. Commander Vex stood on the bridge, his 12-foot-tall frame casting a dark shadow across the control panels. His thick, armor-like skin was gray with black stripes, and his 6 arms ended in razor-sharp claws. 2 rows of teeth filled his massive jaw, each tooth the size of a human finger. His yellow eyes glowed in the dim red light of the bridge. The Krethek were nightmares made real. They came from a world called Doomspire, where the very air could burn your lungs and creatures the size of buildings hunted in packs. Every day on their home planet was a fight for survival. The weak died young, and only the strongest lived. Long enough to reproduce? "Sir, we are approaching the Zellan system," reported his weapons officer. A female Krethek named Rax. Her voice was like grinding stones. "The inhabitants are sending surrender signals already." Vex clicked his claws together in satisfaction. This always happened. When other species in the galaxy saw a Krethek ship, they gave up without a fight. The reputation of his people traveled faster than their ships. They were known as the only Deathworlders in the galaxy, the only species tough enough to survive on planets that would kill anything else, for 3,000 years. The Krethek had been expanding their empire. They would arrive at a star system, and the locals would either surrender or be destroyed. It was that simple. No other species could match their strength, their durability, or their natural weapons. "Show me the planet," Vex commanded. The main screen displayed Zellan Prime, a beautiful blue and green world with white clouds swirling around it. Cities dotted the surface, connected by gleaming silver lines that were probably transportation systems. It looked peaceful and perfect, just like every other world the soft species chose to live on. "Atmosphere is standard oxygen-nitrogen mix," reported the science officer. "Gravity is 0.8 standard. Temperature ranges are well within the comfort zone for most galactic species. No dangerous weather patterns detected." Vex shook his massive head. "These soft-worlders always picked the easiest planets to live on. Perfect weather, gentle gravity, no predators worth mentioning. They built their cities in places where the biggest threat was maybe a thunderstorm. How could such weak creatures ever hope to fight against the Krethek, who had learned to hunt monsters in acid rain?" "Sir," called out the communications officer, "we are receiving a transmission from the planet's government. They are formally surrendering and requesting mercy for their civilian population." "Predictable," Vex growled. He had seen this same pattern on hundreds of worlds. The moment his ship appeared in their system, these civilized species would fall over themselves trying to surrender. They knew they could not fight beings who had evolved in hell itself. The Krethek had tried to find worthy opponents for centuries. They had hoped to discover other Deathworlders, other species who had been forged in the fires of hostile planets. But every world they found was inhabited by creatures who lived in comfort and safety. The galaxy seemed to be full of farmers, merchants, and scholars, but no warriors. "Begin the occupation procedures," Vex ordered. "Land the ground forces and secure the major cities. We will strip this world of anything useful and move on to the next system." As his crew carried out his orders, Vex stared out at the stars. Somewhere out there had to be another species like his own. The galaxy was vast, containing billions of star systems. Surely they could not be the only ones who had survived the trial of a death world. The tactical officer suddenly looked up from his station. "Sir, long-range sensors are detecting something unusual in the next system over." "What kind of something?" "There appears to be a planet with extreme environmental conditions. Class 9 Death World classification. But sir, there are definite signs of intelligent life." Vex felt his heart rate increase. A Class 9 Death World with intelligent life? The Krethek homeworld was only classified as Class 7. What kind of creatures could survive on a planet even more hostile than Doomspire? "Show me the data." The screen changed to display a blue and brown planet orbiting a yellow star. The readings were incredible. Massive storm systems raged across the surface. The planet's crust appeared to be constantly shifting, with volcanic activity scattered across multiple continents. The atmosphere contained dangerous levels of oxygen, and the magnetic field was constantly fluctuating. Life signs, Vex asked. Abundant, sir. The planet is teeming with biological activity, but the life forms appear to be extremely aggressive. Our sensors are detecting predators that make our own homeworld's creatures look tame. Vex studied the data with growing excitement. This was it. This was what he had been looking for his entire military career. Another Deathworld species. Creatures who might actually provide a challenge worthy of the Krethek Empire. The planet appears to have achieved spaceflight, the tactical officer continued. We are detecting artificial structures in orbit and evidence of interplanetary travel. Within their system, even better. These Deathworlders had technology. They might actually be able to put up a real fight. Vex had grown tired of conquering species who surrendered at the first sight of his ships. He wanted to test his people against opponents who could match their strength and ferocity. Set course for that system immediately, Vex commanded. Signal the fleet to join us there. If we are about to meet the galaxy's second Deathworld species, I want to make sure we are prepared for anything. As the dark storm changed direction, the crew buzzed with excitement. For the first time in generations, they might be heading into a real battle against worthy opponents. Every Krethek warrior dreamed of fighting enemies who could match their own deadly skills. Vex looked out at the stars again, but now his yellow eyes held a different light. Instead of boredom, there was anticipation. Instead of disappointment, there was hope. Perhaps they were not alone after all. Perhaps somewhere in the darkness of space, another species had survived the ultimate test of a Deathworld. He had no idea that the creatures he was about to encounter would make the Krethek look like gentle house pets. He had no idea that the galaxy's most dangerous predators were about to meet something far worse than anything their nightmares could have imagined. The ship accelerated toward the mysterious blue planet, carrying with it the most feared military force in known space. But they were heading toward a world where evolution had created something unprecedented. They were about to discover what happened when a species did not just survive a Deathworld, but conquered it completely. The small cargo ship Freedom Runner drifted silently through the asteroid field near Mars. Captain Tom Blake sat in his pilot's seat, drinking black coffee that was hot enough to burn most alien tongues. The ship was old and battered, its hull covered with dents from years of hauling supplies between Earth's colonies. Tom was 45 years old, with gray hair and tired eyes. He had been flying cargo runs for 20 years, moving everything from mining equipment to food supplies. His crew was small but experienced. There was Maria Santos, his co-pilot and navigator. She was young but smart, with quick reflexes and a sharp mind. Dr. Alex Chun served as their medic and science officer. He was quiet but knew more about alien biology than anyone else in the system. "Tom, we have a problem," Maria called from her station. "Long-range sensors are picking up something big heading our way." Tom set down his coffee and looked at the display screen. What he saw made his blood run cold. A massive ship was approaching Earth, bigger than anything humans had ever built. Its dark hull bristled with weapon systems, and its design looked like something made for war. "How big is that thing?" Tom asked. "About 3 miles long," Maria replied. "Energy readings suggest it could blow up our entire moon if it wanted to." Dr. Chun looked up from his medical supplies. "The hull design is unlike anything in our databases. Those markings look like battle scars. Whoever built this ship has seen serious combat." The communication system suddenly crackled to life. A deep, growling voice filled the bridge, speaking in a language that sounded like rocks grinding together. The ship's computer worked quickly to translate the words. "Small vessel, identify yourself immediately. You are in the presence of the Krethek Empire. State your species and purpose." Tom exchanged worried looks with his crew. They had heard stories about aliens from the few space traders who visited Earth's outer colonies. Most of those stories were about peaceful merchants and scientists. This did not sound peaceful. This is Captain Blake of the human cargo vessel Freedom Runner, Tom responded carefully. We're from Earth, the third planet in this system. We're just hauling supplies. There was a long pause. When the alien voice returned, it sounded surprised. Humans, we have no record of this species in our databases. You claim to originate from the Deathworld we detected? Tom frowned. Deathworld? You mean Earth? The planet shows extreme environmental hazards. Violent storm systems, seismic instability, dangerous atmospheric composition. How does your species survive on such a hostile world? Maria and Dr. Chun looked at each other in confusion. Earth was their home. It was where humans had evolved and thrived for millions of years. Sure, it had weather and earthquakes, but that was just normal life. I guess we're used to it, Tom said simply. Earth is just home to us. Another pause, this one even longer. Prepare to be boarded. We require direct contact to verify your claims. Tom felt his stomach tighten. The alien ship was enormous and clearly built for war. His little cargo vessel had no weapons and no chance of escape. But something in the alien's voice suggested curiosity rather than immediate hostility. We'll comply, Tom said. But I should mention that Earth has defensive systems. Any hostile action might be interpreted as an act of war. The sound that came through the speakers might have been laughter, but it was unlike any laughter Tom had ever heard. It was deep and harsh, like the sound of metal being torn apart. 20 minutes later, a smaller ship detached from the massive alien vessel. It was still larger than the Freedom Runner, and its design was clearly military. The boarding craft attached to their airlock with a series of loud clanking sounds. When the airlock opened, Tom got his first look at a Krethak warrior, commander. Vex had to bend down to fit through the human-sized doorway. His 12-foot frame filled the cargo bay, his gray and black striped skin gleaming under the ship's lights. His 6 arms moved with predatory grace, and his yellow eyes scanned everything with the intensity of a natural hunter. Behind him came 2 more Krethak soldiers, equally massive and intimidating. What surprised Vex was the human's reaction. These small creatures showed no fear. The one called Blake stood calmly, his hands relaxed at his sides. His crew had positioned themselves around the cargo bay, but they seemed alert rather than terrified. So you're the Krethak? Tom said in a conversational tone. Welcome aboard our ship. Vex studied the human captain with growing confusion. By every law of nature, these soft-looking creatures should be cowering in terror. Instead, they seemed almost interested in meeting him. You are remarkably small, Vex observed. And you possess no natural weapons or armor? How did your species achieve dominance on a Class 9 Deathworld? Tom looked puzzled. Class 9? Is that some kind of rating system? Earth's just Earth to us. We evolved there, adapted to it, learned to thrive. Show me your homeworld. Vex commanded. Dr. Chun activated the ship's display system, bringing up detailed images of Earth. Vex watched in fascination as the screen showed massive hurricanes spinning across ocean surfaces, volcanic eruptions reshaping entire landscapes, and earthquake zones where the very ground split open. These natural disasters occur regularly? Vex asked. Pretty much, Maria said with a shrug. We've learned to predict most of them and build accordingly. Hurricane season keeps things interesting. Hurricane season? Yeah, every year we get these massive storms. Some of them can flatten entire cities if they hit the wrong spot. But we've gotten pretty good at tracking them and getting people to safety. Vex felt something he had never experienced before, genuine confusion. These humans spoke of planet-destroying storms as if they were minor inconveniences. They discussed living in earthquake zones as casually as other species might talk about pleasant weather. Your species builds permanent settlements in areas of known geological instability? Of course, Tom said. Some of the best farmland is in volcanic soil. And coastal areas are great for trade, even if you have to deal with the occasional tsunami. Tsunami? Dr. Chun pulled up footage of massive waves crashing into coastlines. Giant walls of water caused by underwater earthquakes. They can be pretty destructive, but we've learned to build warning systems. Vex stared at the images in disbelief. The level of environmental hostility shown would have driven most species to find safer worlds. Yet these humans had not only stayed, they had built thriving civilizations in the most dangerous areas. But surely your species must have suffered massive casualties from these natural disasters? The humans exchanged glances and Tom smiled. Well, we've lost some people over the years. But humans are pretty adaptable. We learn from each disaster and build better defenses. As Vex continued to study these strange creatures, he began to realize that the galaxy had been very wrong about Deathworlders. The Krathak had always believed they were the ultimate survivors, forged by their hostile homeworld into perfect warriors. But these humans had done something the Krathak never had. They had not just survived their Deathworld, they had made it their own. Dr. Chen had suggested they continue the meeting in the ship's small kitchen area. He believed that sharing food was a good way to build trust between different species. As he prepared what humans called a simple meal, Commander Vex watched with growing alarm. The human doctor was cooking something that made Vex's sensors flash warning signals. The spices and ingredients registered as mild toxins on his equipment. Yet the humans were preparing to eat these dangerous substances voluntarily. Is this normal food for your species? Vex asked, his translator working to convey his confusion. Just basic stuff, Dr. Chun replied, stirring a pot of what he called vegetable soup. Nothing fancy. Maria likes it spicy, so I added some pepper. Flakes. Maria laughed at something and took a taste of the soup. Vex watched in fascination as she showed no adverse reaction to consuming what his sensors identified as a chemical irritant. Your species consumes poisons for enjoyment? Vex asked. Poisons? Tom looked confused. It's just food. Though I suppose some of our spices might seem strong to other species. The casual way these humans discussed eating toxic substances was disturbing to Vex. Throughout the galaxy, most species were extremely careful about what they consumed. The idea of deliberately adding harmful chemicals to food was almost unthinkable. Tell me more about your homeworld, Vex said, changing the subject. Our scans indicate extreme environmental challenges. How does your civilization function under such conditions? You mean the weather? Tom shrugged. Yeah, Earth can be pretty wild sometimes. We get storms that can destroy cities, earthquakes that split the ground open, volcanoes that bury entire regions in ash. Yet, you continue to inhabit these dangerous areas? Dr. Chun activated the ship's database, showing detailed maps of human settlements. We live everywhere on Earth, coastal cities despite tsunamis, mountain towns near active volcanoes, plains regions that get hit by tornadoes every year. Vex studied the display with growing disbelief. The humans had built major population centers in areas that the Krathak would have considered uninhabitable disaster zones. But surely your species seeks safer locations for important settlements? Not really, Maria said, joining the conversation. Some of our biggest cities are in earthquake zones or hurricane paths. Los Angeles sits on a major fault line. Miami gets hit by hurricanes regularly. People just adapt. Adapt how? Tom pulled up images of human architecture and engineering. We build earthquake-resistant buildings, early warning systems for storms, flood barriers for coastal areas. When nature throws something at us, we figure out how to handle it. Vex watched footage of humans rebuilding cities after natural disasters, constructing stronger buildings in the same dangerous locations. This behavior made no sense to him. Any rational species would relocate to safer areas. Your people remain in hazardous zones even after experiencing catastrophic losses? Where else would we go? Dr. Ching asked with genuine puzzlement. Earth is our home. We don't run away from problems. We solve them. The Krathak commander felt his worldview shifting. His people had always believed they were tough because they survived on a hostile planet. But they had never chosen to live in the most dangerous areas of their world. They had found the safest territories and defended them fiercely. These humans seemed to do the opposite. They deliberately chose to live in the most challenging environments their planet offered. Show me your planetary wildlife, Vex requested. Dr. Chun's expression brightened. Oh, Earth has incredible biodiversity. We've got amazing predators and some really fascinating dangerous species. The display changed to show Earth's animal kingdom. Vex's eyes widened as he saw creatures that defied logical evolution. Massive. Predators with bone-crushing jaws, venomous snakes capable of killing with a single bite, spiders whose toxins could dissolve tissue. These apex predators control your world's ecosystems? Vex asked. Actually, no, Maria said with a strange smile. We do. Impossible. Your species lacks natural weapons, size advantages, or protective armor. How could you dominate such dangerous creatures? Dr. Chun pulled up historical data showing the relationship between humans and Earth's wildlife. We didn't need natural weapons, we made our own. The timeline displayed the progression of human technology from simple stone tools to advanced firearms. Vex watched in horrified fascination as he saw a species that had gone from using rocks to splitting atoms in less than 10,000 years. Your species develops technology as an evolutionary adaptation? We develop everything, Tom said quietly. Tools, weapons, medicine, art, science. Humans are curious about everything in the universe. We're not satisfied until we understand how things work. And if something threatens us, Maria added with that same unsettling smile, we figure out how to eliminate the threat. Vex studied the data more carefully. The humans had not just survived alongside dangerous predators. They had systematically hunted many species to extinction. Not for survival, but for resources, territory, or sometimes just because the animals were inconvenient. You drove apex predators to extinction through hunting? Some of them, Dr. Chun admitted. Though we've gotten better at conservation in recent centuries, we learned that biodiversity is important for planetary health. The casual way they discussed eliminating entire species was chilling. The Krethak were warriors, but they killed for territory and resources. These humans seem to have eliminated threats simply because they existed. Your species also fights among itself frequently, Vex observed, noting the extensive military history in their databases. Yeah, humans have always been pretty good at warfare, Tom said. We've had thousands of years of practice fighting each other before we started looking at the stars. Vex reviewed the military data with growing alarm. Human conflicts involved tactics and strategies that made Krethak warfare look primitive. They had developed weapons capable of destroying their entire planet, yet somehow had managed not to use them. You possess the capability to eliminate all life on your homeworld? Multiple times over, Maria confirmed. Nuclear weapons, biological warfare, chemical agents. We could sterilize Earth if we really wanted to. Why do you not use these weapons? The humans exchanged glances and Dr. Chun spoke carefully. Because we learned that destroying everything doesn't serve our long-term interests. We prefer to find solutions that let us keep expanding and exploring. Vex felt a chill run through his massive frame. These small, soft creatures possessed the power to destroy worlds, yet they spoke of it as a choice they had decided against for practical reasons. Captain Blake, Vex said slowly, I believe I need to understand more about your species' place in this galaxy. Tom's smile grew wider, and for the first time, Vex understood why so many prey species throughout the universe instinctively feared the sight of bared teeth. Commander, Tom said in a friendly tone that somehow sounded more threatening than any Krethak war cry, I think that's a very good idea. The emergency meeting of the Galactic Council took place on the massive space station called Harmony Prime. Representatives from 53 different species filled the Great Assembly Hall. The chamber was designed to accommodate beings of all shapes and sizes, from the crystalline Xanthari to the gaseous Veloids floating in their protective containers. High Chancellor Crix of the peaceful Milari stood at the center podium. His blue-green skin shimmered under the hall's lights as he called for order. The Milari were known throughout the galaxy as skilled diplomats and peacekeepers. They had helped prevent wars for over 2,000 years. Fellow beings, Chancellor, Crix announced, his melodic voice carrying across the vast chamber, we have gathered to discuss a matter of utmost importance. The Krathak Empire has discovered a new species that may pose a significant threat to galactic peace. A wave of concerned murmurs swept through the assembly. Ambassador Yell of the Merchant Draconi Federation flapped her wings nervously. Chancellor, the Krathak are the most powerful military force in known space. What could possibly threaten them? From his reinforced platform designed to support his massive weight, Commander Vex stood to address the council. Even here, surrounded by the galaxy's most advanced civilizations, his presence made many representatives uncomfortable. Several smaller species had moved their seats further away when he entered. Honored delegates, Vex began, his deep voice rumbling through the chamber's translation systems. 4 days ago, my forces encountered a species calling themselves humans. They originate from what we initially classified as a Class 9 death world. The assembly erupted in shocked gasps. Class 9 was the highest rating on the galactic habitability scale. Most species avoided such worlds entirely. Dr. Finn of the Scientific Aquarian Collective raised one of her tentacles. Commander, are you certain of this classification? The mathematical probability of intelligent life evolving on a Class 9 world is essentially 0. I have brought evidence, Vex replied grimly. He activated the chamber's massive holographic display system. The assembled representatives watched in stunned silence as images of Earth filled the air above them. They saw hurricanes, larger than most space stations spinning across vast oceans, volcanic eruptions that could be seen from orbit reshaping entire continents, earthquake zones where the planet's surface cracked open like broken glass, lightning storms that turned the sky into sheets of electrical fire. This is their world of origin, Vex continued. A planet where the atmosphere contains corrosive levels of oxygen, where geological instability is constant, and where predators exist that make our own homeworld's creatures seem harmless. Impossible, whispered Chancellor Crix. No species could survive in such conditions. Not only do they survive, Vex said, they thrive. They have built cities in areas that experience regular natural disasters. They consume chemical irritants as normal food. They deliberately choose to live in the most dangerous regions of their planet. The chamber filled with alarmed chittering, clicking, and whistling as representatives tried to process this information. Ambassador Locke of the Siverian Mining Guild, his rocky features creased with skepticism, spoke up. Commander, even if this is true, they are just one species on one world. How could they threaten an entire galactic civilization? Vex's mandibles clicked ominously. Because they have achieved spaceflight, and their rate of technological development is unlike anything we have ever encountered. The holographic display shifted to show human technological progression. The assembled delegates watched in growing horror as a species advanced from primitive metalworking to interstellar travel in what amounted to an eye blink by galactic standards. This timeline cannot be accurate, protested Dr. Finn. It suggests they developed advanced technology in less than 50,000 of their planetary cycles. Most species require millions of years to achieve such progress. The data has been verified multiple times, Vex replied darkly. During our encounter, they showed no fear of our superior size or weaponry. Instead, they were curious. They wanted to understand how our technology functioned, what our society was like, what resources we required. Chancellor Crix's skin color shifted to a worried purple. You interpret scientific curiosity as threatening behavior? I interpret rapid adaptation as a threat. In a single conversation, they analyzed our ship's design, estimated our military capabilities, and began asking detailed questions about our territorial holdings. These are not the actions of a peaceful species seeking friendship. The chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. Finally, Ambassador Yell spoke in a trembling voice. What evidence do you have of their aggressive nature? Vex pulled up more data from the human databases. Their own historical records show constant warfare among their own kind. They have developed weapons capable of sterilizing their entire planet. They have systematically eliminated competing species on their homeworld, not for survival, but for convenience. Images flashed across the display showing human weapons throughout history. From simple spears to nuclear missiles, the progression of increasingly deadly technology was undeniable. "They possess planet-killing weapons?" gasped Ambassador Locke. "Multiple types," Vex confirmed. "Nuclear, biological, chemical. Yet they choose not to use them, which suggests strategic thinking rather than mindless aggression. They are predators who plan for the long term." The Milari Chancellor's skin had turned a deep shade of worried blue. "What do you recommend, Commander?" "Immediate containment," Vex stated firmly. "We must establish a permanent blockade around their system to prevent their expansion into the broader galaxy. If they attempt to leave their homeworld, we end the threat before it spreads." The assembly erupted in heated debate. Some delegates argued for attempting peaceful contact, while others supported the Krethek position. The discussion grew increasingly frantic as representatives realized they might be facing something unprecedented. Dr. Finn raised her tentacles for attention. "Perhaps we should attempt to study them further before taking such drastic action." "Study them?" Vex's yellow eyes glowed with something approaching fear. "Doctor, in our brief encounter, they reverse-engineered our communication protocols, analyzed our ship's structural weaknesses, and began asking questions that suggest they were already planning counters to our weapon systems." "They did this during a friendly first contact meeting?" "They did this while serving us food and making casual conversation. These beings treat information gathering as a natural social activity." The chamber fell silent again as delegates processed this information. The idea of a species that could analyze and adapt to new threats, while appearing completely friendly, was deeply unsettling. Chancellor Crix finally spoke, his voice heavy with the weight of decision. "We will put the matter to a vote, all in favor of establishing a containment protocol for the human species?" Slowly, reluctantly, tentacles, claws, and appendages of all kinds rose throughout the chamber. The vote was not unanimous, but it was decisive. As the council session ended, none of the delegates noticed the small maintenance drone that had been quietly recording everything from a ventilation shaft, and none of them suspected that their entire discussion was already being transmitted across the galaxy to a small, blue world where a species of apex predators was learning that the universe considered them a threat to be contained. 3 months after the Galactic Council's secret meeting, Commander Vex stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at something that should have been impossible. Where empty space had existed just hours before, dozens of human ships now floated in perfect formation around Earth. The Krethek fleet had arrived expecting to find a primitive civilization with perhaps a few orbital stations. Instead, they faced a military force that had appeared from nowhere, as if the humans had been expecting them. "Sir," reported his sensor officer, "I count 47 vessels of unknown design. They appeared simultaneously across the entire system, without triggering our detection grids." Vex studied the tactical display with growing unease. The human ships were smaller than Krethek dreadnoughts, but their formations suggested advanced military planning. More disturbing was how they had appeared without warning. "Open communications with the lead vessel," Vex commanded. The main screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of a human warship. A woman with short gray hair and sharp eyes sat in the captain's chair. Her uniform was crisp and military, and her expression was coldly professional. "Commander Vex," she said without waiting for him to speak, "I am Admiral Kate Ross of the United Earth Defense Force. We need to have a conversation." Vex felt his confidence waver. This human knew his name and rank, despite the fact that his fleet had maintained communication silence during their approach. "Admiral Ross, your vessels are in violation of the Galactic Containment Order. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." Admiral Ross smiled, but there was no warmth in the expression. "I'm afraid that's not going to happen. You see, we've been monitoring your communications for quite some time. We know about your council meeting, your containment order, and your plans for what you call a preemptive strike. Impossible. Our transmissions use quantum encryption that our computers broke in approximately 37 minutes. Ross interrupted. We know about the blockade you're planning. We know about the orbital bombardment protocols. We know that your entire galactic community has decided we're too dangerous to be allowed to expand into space. Vex stared at the human admiral in shock. The casual way she dismissed their most advanced security measures was deeply unsettling. Your species has been classified as a galactic threat. The safety of all civilized worlds demands. Demands what? Ross cut him off again. That you cage us on our own planet? That you destroy us if we try to explore the galaxy? That you make decisions about humanity's future without bothering to include us in the discussion? That the tactical display suddenly lit up with new contacts, hundreds of them appearing throughout the solar system as if they had materialized from thin air. Stealth technology, Ross explained conversationally. We originally developed it for hunting submarines in our oceans. Interesting how useful it becomes when applied to space warfare. Vex looked at the display in growing horror. The human fleet outnumbered his forces by more than 20 to 1, and they had appeared without triggering a single sensor alarm. This is your final warning, Vex managed. Surrender now or what? Ross leaned forward in her chair. You'll attack us? You'll call for reinforcements? We've been tracking your fleet movements for weeks. Your nearest backup is 4 days away at maximum speed. To demonstrate her point, Ross nodded to someone off-screen. Suddenly, every human vessel in the system fired a single coordinated shot into empty space. The precision was flawless, and the implied threat was unmistakable. You see, Commander, Ross continued, your Galactic Council made a critical error. In judgment, you assume that, because we study you, we must fear you. You couldn't imagine a species that analyzes potential enemies not out of terror, but out of professional interest. She stood up from her chair, and for the first time, Vex saw something in her eyes that made his blood freeze. It was the look of a predator that had been patient long enough. We've spent the last 3 months studying your technology, your tactics, your weaknesses. We've infiltrated your communication networks, mapped your supply lines, and identified the home systems of every species in your precious council. The display showed human ships moving throughout the solar system with impossible coordination. Their movements suggested months of planning and preparation that should have been impossible to conceal. How long have you been watching us? Vex asked quietly. Since your first scout ships entered our system 6 months ago, Ross replied. Did you really think we wouldn't notice massive alien warships approaching our homeworld? We've been preparing for this conversation since the day you arrived. Vex felt his worldview crumbling. The Krathak had always prided themselves on their military intelligence and strategic planning. Yet these humans had been several steps ahead of them from the beginning. What do you want? He asked. Ross's smile returned, but this time it held genuine warmth. Somehow, that made it even more frightening. What we've always wanted, Commander. To explore, to learn, to meet new species and discover new worlds. The only difference is that now we're going to do it on our terms, not yours. She gestured to someone off-screen, and the communication display split to show similar scenes playing out across the galaxy. Human fleets were appearing simultaneously in dozens of star systems, each one delivering the same message to surprised alien governments. Your council wanted to contain us to protect the galaxy, Ross said softly. Instead, you've given us a reason to introduce ourselves to everyone all at once. Vex watched in stunned silence as reports came in from across Krethek space. Human ships were appearing everywhere, not attacking but simply making their presence known. The message was clear. Humanity could reach any system in the galaxy whenever they chose. We're not interested in conquest, Ross continued. We're interested in exploration, trade, and scientific exchange. But we're going to do it as equals, not as prisoners in our own solar system. She leaned back in her chair, her expression becoming businesslike again. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to return to your council and tell them that humanity is now a spacefaring civilization. We're open to peaceful relations with any species that treats us with respect. And if they refuse? Admiral Ross's smile grew wider, and Vex finally understood why prey animals throughout the galaxy instinctively feared the sight of bared teeth. Then they'll discover what a real Deathworld species looks like when it stops being polite. As the transmission ended, Vex stared out at the human fleet surrounding his ships. For the first time in his long military career, he understood what it felt like to be completely outmatched. The galaxy would never be the same.